I used to believe trust was the strongest part of any relationship. If someone had asked me 2 years ago whether I trusted my fiancé, Ethan, I would have laughed at the question. Of course I trusted him. I trusted him with my heart. I trusted him with my future. I trusted him with every dream I had. And that was exactly why what happened next nearly destroyed me. It started with a single photo. Just one photo. A photo I was never supposed to see. The strange thing is that the day began perfectly. I woke up excited. Our wedding was only 3 weeks away. The venue was booked. The invitations had been sent. My dress was hanging safely in the closet. Everything was finally coming together. For 2 years Ethan and I had built a life together. Or at least, that's what I thought. That afternoon I was at work when my phone buzzed. At first I ignored it. Then it buzzed again, and again. Finally, during lunch, I picked it up. An unknown number. No name, no message, just a photo. I almost deleted it immediately. But something made me open it. And the moment I did, my entire world stopped. The photo showed Ethan. There was no doubt. The same smile. The same jacket he wore almost every day. The same watch I had bought him for his birthday. But he wasn't alone. A woman was standing beside him. Her arm wrapped around his waist. His hand resting comfortably on her shoulder. They weren't standing like friends. They were standing like people who belonged together. I stared at the screen. My heart pounding so hard it hurt. No, I whispered the word out loud. No, this can't be real. Maybe it was old. Maybe it was edited. Maybe there was some explanation. There had to be, right? A few seconds later another message arrived. This time it was text. Ask him where he was last weekend. That was it. Nothing else. No name. No explanation. Just that. Ask him where he was last weekend. I felt cold. Last weekend Ethan told me he was visiting his brother. He had been gone 2 days. He called me several times. Sent photos. Even told me he missed me. I suddenly remembered something. The photos he sent were all close-up shots. No locations. No background details. Nothing that proved where he actually was. For the first time in 2 years. I felt fear. Real fear. And deep inside, a terrible question appeared. What if the photo was real? 2. Looking for answers. That evening Ethan came home smiling. He kissed my forehead, asked about my day, started talking about wedding plans. And I sat there pretending everything was normal. The photo burned inside my mind. I wanted to confront him immediately. I wanted answers. But something stopped me. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was fear. Instead, I asked casually. So, how's your brother doing? He smiled. He's good. And last weekend, what about it? You had fun? His answer came instantly. Yeah, it was nice seeing family. No hesitation. No nervousness. Nothing. He lied so naturally it scared me. I forced myself to smile. But inside, something cracked. That night I barely slept. I kept staring at the ceiling. Thinking. Replaying every moment from the past 2 years. Every late-night meeting, every unexpected trip, every excuse, every strange moment I had ignored because I trusted him. The next morning another message arrived. Unknown number again. This time there were 3 photos. Not 1, 3, each worse than the last. In one photo Ethan was holding the woman's hand. In another they were sitting together at a restaurant. In the third, they were kissing. I dropped my phone. I couldn't breathe. My hands were shaking. The evidence was undeniable. The man I planned to marry, the man I trusted completely, was living a second life. I cried for hours, not because I lost him, but because I realized I never truly knew him. The hardest betrayals don't come from strangers. They come from the people you trust most. Eventually I wiped my tears. And for the first time, anger replaced sadness. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to beg. And I definitely wasn't going to let him control the story. If Ethan wanted to lie, I was going to learn the entire truth first. No matter how painful it was. 3. The secret investigation. For the next 2 weeks I became someone I barely recognized. I watched, I listened, I paid attention, and little by little, Ethan's perfect mask started falling apart. The first clue came from social media. The woman in the photos was named Rachel. Finding her wasn't difficult. She had dozens of public posts. And one detail immediately caught my attention. She posted pictures from places Ethan had supposedly never visited. Yet somehow, he appeared in reflections, backgrounds, shadows, tiny details most people would never notice. But once you know what you're looking for, the truth becomes impossible to ignore. Then I found something worse. Rachel wasn't some random affair. She believed she was his girlfriend. A serious girlfriend. There were photos dating back over a year. Captions about future plans, romantic comments, inside jokes, memories together. My stomach twisted. He wasn't cheating for a few weeks. He had been lying for over a year. The wedding, the engagement, everything. A complete lie. Then something happened that changed everything again. Rachel posted a countdown. 22 days. At first it made no sense. Then I clicked the comments. One friend replied, I can't wait for your big day. My blood ran cold. Big day. What big day? I kept reading, and suddenly the truth hit me. Rachel was planning a wedding too. With Ethan. The same month as ours. The same season. Maybe even the same week. I stared at the screen in disbelief. How was this even possible? How could one person build 2 completely different futures at the same time? I wanted revenge immediately, but I stopped myself, because now I understood something important. This wasn't just my story anymore. Rachel was a victim too, and neither of us knew the full truth yet. So instead of acting emotionally, I made a plan that would expose every lie, and leave Ethan with nowhere left to hide. Little did I know, the biggest shock was still waiting for me. For 3 days I stared at Rachel's profile. I kept asking myself the same question. Should I contact her? What if she already knew about me? What if she was helping him? What if this whole thing somehow became worse? But eventually I realized something. The only person benefiting from our silence was Ethan. So I sent a message. A simple one. Hi Rachel, we need to talk about Ethan. My heart pounded while I waited. Hours passed. No response. Then late that night my phone buzzed. 3 words. Who is this? I took a deep breath. And sent her a photo. A photo of Ethan proposing to me. The engagement ring clearly visible. A few seconds later my phone started ringing. It was Rachel. The moment I answered, neither of us spoke. There was only silence. Heavy silence. The kind that appears when two people suddenly realize their entire reality might be a lie. Finally she spoke. Her voice was shaking. Please tell me that's fake. I closed my eyes. I wish it was. For the next hour we talked. Compared dates. Compared stories. Compared promises. And every new detail revealed something even worse. Ethan had been telling both of us the exact same things. The same future dreams. The same promises. The same excuses. The same lies. When he claimed he was traveling for work. Sometimes he was with her. When he told Rachel he was visiting family. He was with me. He had carefully built 2 separate lives. And somehow managed to keep them hidden for over a year. Rachel started crying. I understood exactly how she felt. Because I had cried those same tears only days earlier. But then something happened. Our sadness slowly turned into determination. Neither of us wanted revenge fueled by anger. We wanted truth. We wanted exposure. And most importantly, we wanted Ethan to face the consequences of every lie. So together we created a plan. A plan so simple that he would never see it coming. 5. Gathering every piece of evidence. The next 2 weeks became a secret operation. Rachel and I talked every day. We collected screenshots, photos, messages, emails, travel receipts, anything connected to Ethan's double life. The deeper we looked, the worse it became. There wasn't just one lie. There were hundreds. Small lies, big lies, everyday lies, years of deception hidden behind a charming smile. One night Rachel found something shocking. A conversation between Ethan and one of his friends. The messages made my stomach turn. He wasn't confused. He wasn't trapped. He wasn't struggling between 2 relationships. He was bragging, laughing about it, acting proud of what he was doing. One message stood out. I've got everything under control. Neither of them suspects a thing. I stared at those words for several minutes. Neither of them suspects a thing. The arrogance, the confidence, the complete lack of guilt. That message erased the last bit of sympathy I had left. At that moment I knew exactly what needed to happen. Ethan didn't deserve another private conversation. He didn't deserve another chance to explain. He had already explained himself through his actions. Now he needed consequences. Real consequences. But we had to be careful. If he discovered what we knew, he might disappear. Or worse, he might manipulate the situation again. So we acted normal, painfully normal. I smiled when he came home. I discussed wedding details. I pretended everything was fine. Meanwhile Rachel did the same. And Ethan remained completely unaware. Watching him live comfortably inside his lies became almost surreal. Every compliment sounded fake. Every promise sounded hollow. Every smile looked different now. Because once trust breaks, you start seeing everything clearly. And what I saw wasn't the man I loved. It was the man he had been hiding all along. 6. The invitation. Then an opportunity appeared. An opportunity too perfect to ignore. A week before our wedding rehearsal, Ethan wanted to host a small celebration dinner. Close friends, family members, a chance for everyone to meet before the big day. The moment he mentioned it, I knew. This was it. This would be the moment. Not out of revenge, out of truth. If Ethan had spent years creating a false image, then the truth deserved an audience. Rachel agreed. The plan was simple. No yelling, no dramatic scenes, no chaos, just facts, undeniable facts, the kind nobody could argue with. As the dinner approached, I felt strangely calm. The sadness had faded, the anger had cooled, what remained was certainty. I wasn't afraid anymore, because losing Ethan no longer scared me. Keeping him scared me. The real fear wasn't ending the relationship. The real fear was marrying someone capable of such deception. And I almost did. That thought haunted me. How close I came to building an entire life on a foundation of lies. But thankfully, one photo changed everything, and now the truth was ready to come out. 7. The night everything fell apart. The restaurant was beautiful, friends laughed, family members talked excitedly about the wedding. Everyone seemed happy, everyone except me, because I knew something they didn't. I knew the night wasn't going to end the way they expected. Ethan sat beside me smiling, completely relaxed, completely confident, still believing he controlled the story, still believing nobody suspected anything. As dinner continued, I exchanged a quick glance with Rachel. She had arrived quietly a few minutes earlier. Most people assumed she was a friend of someone attending. Ethan hadn't noticed her yet. Not until she stood up. The moment his eyes landed on her, his face changed. Instantly, confusion, shock, fear, for the first time since this nightmare began. I saw him panic. Rachel walked toward our table. Slowly, calmly, silence spread across the room. People looked around, confused. Then she stopped directly in front of Ethan, and said 6 words. 6 words that changed everything. Would you like to explain this? She placed several printed photographs on the table. Photographs showing their relationship. Photographs showing their trips. Photographs showing the life he had hidden. The color drained from Ethan's face. He looked at me, then at Rachel, then back at me, and suddenly he realized everything. He understood. The lies were over. The secrets were finished. The truth had finally arrived. And there was nowhere left to run. The room was completely silent. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. Every eye was fixed on Ethan. The photographs lay on the table like pieces of a puzzle that suddenly revealed the entire picture. For several seconds, Ethan said nothing. His mouth opened, then closed again. He looked around desperately, searching for an escape. But there wasn't one, not this time. One of his friends picked up a photograph. Then another, and another. The confusion on their faces quickly turned into disbelief. "What is this?" someone asked. Ethan swallowed hard. "It's not what it looks like." The moment he said those words, I almost laughed. Because every person caught in a lie seems to say the exact same thing. Rachel folded her arms. "Then explain it." Again, silence. Again, excuses. Again, lies. But now nobody believed him. Not anymore. I stood up slowly. My hands were steady. My voice was calm. And that surprised even me. A month earlier I would have been crying. A week earlier I would have been furious. But now, I simply wanted the truth to be heard. So I pulled out my phone. And connected it to the screen the restaurant used for presentations. The room filled with images. Messages, dates, screenshots, evidence, months of evidence, every lie, every excuse, every contradiction, everything. The atmosphere changed instantly. People who once admired Ethan now looked at him differently. Family members stared in shock. Friends looked disappointed. Some simply shook their heads. Because betrayal hurts. But deception on this scale is something else entirely. The hardest part wasn't discovering he had lied. The hardest part was discovering how easily he lied. How naturally he lied. How confidently he lied. The man standing before everyone wasn't the man they thought they knew. And deep down, he knew it too. 9. The collapse of the perfect image. For years, Ethan carefully built a perfect image. Reliable, loyal, trustworthy, the kind of man everyone respected. The kind of man people pointed to as an example. But perfect images are fragile. Because they depend on one thing. Secrets. And once the secrets disappear, the image collapses. That night, his carefully built world began falling apart. Friends started asking questions. Questions he couldn't answer. Family members demanded explanations. Explanations he couldn't give. Every new question exposed another lie. Every new detail revealed another secret. Eventually, even Ethan stopped trying. The confidence disappeared. The charm disappeared. The excuses disappeared. All that remained was silence. The silence of someone finally facing the consequences of their choices. Then something unexpected happened. His father stood up. The entire room turned toward him. He looked directly at Ethan. Disappointment filled his face. Not anger, not rage, just disappointment. And somehow that looked even worse. "I taught you better than this." That was all he said. Just one sentence. But it hit harder than anything else that night. Because sometimes the people we disappoint the most are the ones who believed in us completely. Ethan lowered his head. For the first time since I met him, he had nothing left to say. 10. Walking away. People often imagine revenge as something dramatic. Something loud. Something explosive. But real revenge isn't always like that. Sometimes revenge is simply refusing to let someone continue hurting you. Sometimes revenge is choosing yourself. As the dinner ended, I looked around the room one final time. Then I removed my engagement ring. The ring I once treasured. The ring that represented promises. Promises that were never real. I placed it on the table, directly in front of Ethan. He looked up. For a brief moment, I saw regret in his eyes. Maybe it was genuine, maybe it wasn't. At that point, it no longer mattered. Because regret doesn't erase betrayal. And apologies don't rebuild trust overnight. "I hope it was worth it," I said quietly. Then I turned and walked away. No screaming, no dramatic speech, no final argument, just a decision to leave, a decision to move forward, a decision to stop carrying the weight of someone else's choices. And honestly, that felt more powerful than any revenge I could have imagined. 11. The unexpected aftermath. The weeks that followed were difficult. There is no easy way to recover from betrayal. Every memory felt different, every plan felt broken, every dream felt unfinished. Some mornings I woke up angry. Other mornings I woke up sad. And some mornings I simply felt empty. Healing isn't a straight line. It's messy, it's slow, and sometimes it hurts more than people expect. But little by little, things changed. The pain became smaller, the questions became quieter, the memories lost their power. And eventually, I started rebuilding my life. I traveled, spent time with friends, focused on myself, focused on the future. For the first time in years, I wasn't planning my life around someone else. I was planning it around me. And that changed everything. Meanwhile, Rachel and I stayed in touch. Strangely enough, one of the worst experiences of our lives created an unexpected friendship. We had both survived the same storm. And together we reminded each other of something important. His betrayal wasn't our failure. It was his. That realization helped us heal. More than anything else. 12. One final surprise. Several months later, I received another message. This time from a mutual friend. Apparently Ethan had been trying to repair the damage. Trying to rebuild relationships. Trying to explain what happened. But trust is difficult to recover once it's broken. Especially when the deception lasted so long. The friend ended the message with an interesting sentence. He says losing you was the biggest mistake of his life. I stared at the screen. Then smiled. Not because I felt victorious. Not because I wanted him to suffer. But because I finally realized something. His opinion no longer controlled my happiness. Whether he regretted it or not didn't matter. Whether he missed me or not didn't matter. Because my life was moving forward. And for the first time in a very long time, I was genuinely happy. That was the real victory. Not exposing him, not embarrassing him, not proving him wrong. The real victory was finding peace after everything he put me through. 13. The lesson I learned. Looking back now, I sometimes wonder what would have happened if that photo never arrived. What if I had never discovered the truth? What if I had married him? What if I had spent years believing a lie? The thought still gives me chills. But it also reminds me of something important. The truth has a strange way of finding its way to the surface. No matter how carefully someone hides it, no matter how long it takes, eventually, the truth appears. And when it does, it gives us a choice. Stay trapped inside the lie, or walk towards something better. I chose something better, and if there's one lesson this experience taught me, it's this. Never ignore the small signs that something feels wrong. Never sacrifice your self-respect to keep someone else comfortable. And never be afraid to walk away from people who repeatedly choose deception over honesty. Because trust is one of the most valuable things we can give another person. And the people who truly deserve it will never ask us to question it. One photo changed everything, but in the end, it didn't destroy my life. It saved it. The end.